My name is Hank Thompson. Yeah, plain old Hank. For the last 15 years, I've been a long-haul trucker. Crossing the states, mostly running produce, sometimes dry goods, whatever keeps the bills paid and food on the table back home in Omaha. Oh, that's Sarah and my girl, Emily. Em's 17 now, smarter than her old man ever was. Probably already planning her escape from Nebraska the minute she graduates. Sarah's my rock. Puts up with me being gone weeks at a time. Keeps everything running. The thought of them is usually the lighthouse beam, cutting through the fog of exhaustion on these long runs. My rig, she's a 2010 Kenworth W900. Not the newest iron on the road, but she's mine, paid off and reliable. Cherry red, maybe a bit faded now, chrome stacks that still gleam if I bother to polish him. I call her Big Red Betsy. Corny, I know, but you spend enough lonely hours in the cab. You start talking to the damn truck like she's alive. Betsy's got a sleeper cab, bigger than some New York apartments, stocked with enough instant coffee, canned beans, and jerky to survive a blizzard or two. Little did I know I'd soon be wishing it was just a blizzard. This particular run started like any other. Picked up a load of oranges down in Southern California, destined for Chicago. Standard route I-10 east, cut north on I-17, then slice across the country on I-40 and I-80. Miles and miles of asphalt, diners promising the world's best coffee. They lead, and the endless, hypnotic drone of 18 wheels devouring highway. It was Tuesday, late afternoon. I was rolling through Arizona, the kind of stark, beautiful desert that makes you feel like a tiny speck in the grand scheme of things. Sun beating down, sky a blistering blue canvas, heat shimmering off the blacktop in waves. Air conditioning was blasting, fighting a losing battle. Betsy's engine hummed its familiar, deep-throated song. On the CB channel 19, the usual chatter was starting to fade as evening approached, drivers signing off, looking for a spot to park for the night, maybe swapping tall tales or complaining about fuel prices. Everything felt normal, deceptively so. The first inkling that something was off wasn't a bang, but a whisper. It came over the AM radio, nestled between a crackling country song and an ad for cattle feed. A news bulletin rushed, the anchor sounding flustered. Reports of disturbances, riots, in Phoenix. Some kind of violent incidents, rapidly escalating. Details were sketchy. Something about people attacking emergency responders. Sounded bad, but cities have riots. I've driven through cities during riots before. You lock your doors, keep rolling, mind your own business. I switched back to the CB. Anyone copy down Phoenix Way? What's the skinny on those, protests? I asked, keeping my voice casual, silence for a beat. Then, a shaky voice, maybe a younger driver. Breaker 19 that you... road dog. He used my handle. Man, stay clear of Phoenix. It ain't protests, it's nuts down here. People going psycho. Saw a cop, man. I saw a cop get torn apart. Just torn apart. His voice cracked. Easy there, driver. Another, older voice cut in. Calmer but tight. Lot of bad info flying around. Best stick to main routes. Keep your eyes peeled. Might just be some bad drugs going around.
Bad drugs? Yeah, maybe that was it.
PCP or something. Made people crazy violent. Still, torn apart. That stuck in my craw. Sounded worse than any drug freak out I'd ever heard of. I kept driving east on I-40, putting Phoenix further behind me. Flagstaff was my next planned stop for fuel, and maybe a hot meal that didn't come out of a can. The sun dipped lower, painting the desert in fiery oranges and purples. Beautiful, usually peaceful. Tonight it felt ominous. The radio news got weirder. More cities reporting similar outbreaks. Los Angeles, Las Vegas, Albuquerque. Always the same vague story, sudden. Extreme violence, unresponsive individuals, overwhelmed emergency services. One report mentioned victims being bitten. That sent a chill down my spine despite the cab's heat. Bitten. Like animals. Then came the static. Not the usual kind you get out in the sticks. This was thick, persistent, swallowing entire broadcasts. AIM FM, even the weather band. All dissolving into garbled noise and hiss. Only the CB seemed relatively clear, maybe because it's more localized line of sight. But the chatter there was changing too. Less complaining about way stations, more fragmented reports of roadblocks, accidents, people stumbling onto the highway. Fear was creeping into the voices. Roadblock ahead on 40 East. Mile marker. Can't see it. Just cars everywhere. Looks bad. Anyone seen that thing near Winslow? Walking, right down the center line. My dispatcher ain't answering. Phone's dead too. Anyone else? My own phone had lost signal bars an hour ago. Not unusual in this stretch of Arizona, but tonight, coupled with everything else, unease was turning into genuine anxiety. I tried calling Sarah anyway. Straight to a network error message. Tried again, same thing. Okay, Hank, stay calm. Networks get overloaded. It's probably nothing. But the knot in my stomach tightened. I needed fuel soon. The needle was kissing the quarter tank mark. Flagstaff was still a good hour away. There was a smaller truck stop marked on my map. Desert Oasis Fuel and Feed. About 20 miles ahead. Not my usual stop. Probably a dusty little place, but needs must. As I took the exit ramp, something felt wrong. The usual glow of lights from the truck stop sign was flickering. Intermittently dark, and it was quiet. Eerily quiet. Usually, you can hear the rumble of idling trucks from the highway. Tonight, silence. I rolled Betsy slowly into the lot. Maybe half a dozen trucks parked, engines off. No drivers milling about, smoking, stretching their legs. The main building diner store, fuel islands, looked dark, except for one flickering fluorescent tube inside casting jerky shadows. The big sign overhead buzzed erratically, Diesel Fool NF Ed. I killed my engine. The silence pressed in, thick and unnatural, broken only by the wind whistling faintly and the buzzing sign. I didn't like this. Not one bit. My hand hovered over the key, ready to fire Betsy back up. But I needed fuel. Damn it. Okay, plan. Get fuel, pay at the pump if possible, get back in the truck, and get the hell out. Don't go inside unless absolutely necessary. I grabbed my tire thumper, heavy piece of hickory I used to check tire pressure, but feels reassuringly solid in the hand right now. Climbed down from the cab. The air was cooler now. Desert night settling in, but it felt heavy, stagnant. There was a smell faint, but wrong, coppery, like bad meat left in the sun. The fuel pumps were dead, no power. Shit. That meant I had to go inside to see if they could turn them on, or at least find out what was going on. My boots crunched on the gravel as I walked towards the main building. The windows were dark grimy. I peered through one. Empty booths in the diner section, plates with half-eaten food still on the tables. Looked like people left in a hurry. The main door was unlocked. It creaked open like something out of a bad movie. Inside, the air was thick with that coppery smell, stronger now, mixed with the scent of stale coffee and disinfectant. The single flickering light overhead illuminated a scene of disarray. Chairs overturned. Merchandise swept off shelves. A dark stain spreading across the linoleum floor near the counter, buzzing with flies. "Hello?" I called out, my voice sounding loud in the stillness. "Anybody here?" Silence. Then, a noise. A low, wet, shuffling sound from behind the counter. My heart hammered against my ribs. Tire thumper held tight, knuckles white. "Hello? You all right back there?" A figure slowly emerged from behind the end of the counter. It was one of the diner waitresses, I guessed from the stained pink uniform. Or what was left of it. It was torn, smeared with something dark. Her hair was matted, falling across her face. She moved stiffly, dragging one foot, her head lolled at an unnatural angle. "Mom, you need help?" I asked, taking an involuntary step back. She lifted her head. Oh God, her eyes, they weren't eyes. Just milky white orbs, vacant yet somehow focused. On me. Her skin was pale, greyish, stretched taut over sharp cheekbones. Her jaw hung slack, and a low moan, a guttural ah-ah-ah-ah sound, rumbled in her chest. There was blood gore, smeared around her mouth, staining the front of her uniform. This wasn't drugs. This wasn't a riot. This was the torn apart the kid on the CB was talking about. This was wrong. Utterly, terrifyingly wrong. She started shuffling towards me, faster now, that horrible moan rising in pitch. Her arms came up, hands clawing, fingers crooked. Instinct took over. Pure primal flight, or fight. I wasn't sticking around to fight that. I spun around, yanked the door open, and burst back out into the night. I didn't look back, but I heard her stumble through the doorway behind me, that awful groaning sound pursuing me across the gravel lot. I scrambled back up into Betsy's cab, slammed the door, fumbled with the lock. My hands were shaking. The key, where was the damn key? Found it. Jammed it into the ignition. Engine roared to life, headlights cutting through the darkness, illuminating the shuffling waitress now halfway across the lot, still coming. Then I saw another one. A trucker, big guy in overalls, stumbling out from between two parked rigs. Same vacant eyes, same jerky movements, same horrifying sounds. He turned towards Betsy's headlights, drawn by the noise and light. No fuel. Get out, Nadu. I threw Betsy into gear, ignoring the grinding protest. Spun the wheel hard. The waitress was close, slapping uselessly at the passenger side door as I pulled away. The big trucker lurched into my path. No time to swerve. There was a sickening thud. A heavy, wet impact that vibrated through the entire cab. I saw his shape disappear under the front grille in the rearview mirror for a split second. Didn't check the mirrors again. I floored it, fishtailing slightly on the loose gravel of the exit. Tires screaming as they hit the pavement of the on-ramp. Back on I-40 East, pedal to the metal. Adrenaline surged through me like high-voltage electricity. My breath came in ragged gasps. That smell, that coppery, rotten smell, it was in the cab now. From the waitress touching the door, or from what I'd just hit, I gagged, fought down the urge to vomit. The CB crackled to life, louder now, frantic.
They're everywhere! Flagstaff's gone! They're coming out of the city!
Mile marker 2 of an accident?
No, it's not an accident!
They're eating people. Oh god, they're eating. The transmission cut off into a piercing shriek, then static. Flagstaff. My intended stop. Go. I looked at the clock on the dash. Almost 9 p.m. Barely 4 hours since the first weird news report. 4 hours for the world to fall apart. The highway ahead was dark, empty for now. But how far ahead? What was waiting around the next bend? The fuel gauge mocked me, still hovering near empty. The phone was still useless. Sarah Emily. Omaha felt like it was on another planet. I gripped the steering wheel, the worn leather familiar beneath my sweating palms. Big Red Betsy rumbled beneath me, a steady presence in the chaos. She was all I had. An 18-wheel, 80,000-pound lifeboat in a sea of monsters. The first 24 hours had just begun, and I'd already run over one of them. The long haul into hell was underway, and the only way out was forward. The adrenaline dump left me shaking, cold sweat prickling my skin despite the residual desert heat clinging to the air outside. Big Red Betsy ate up the miles of I-40 East, her engine a reassuring roar against the terrifying silence that seemed to press in whenever the CB went quiet. That silence was almost worse than the screams. It felt watchful. What I'd seen back there, the waitress, the trucker, they weren't sick. They weren't on drugs. They were gone. Replaced by something empty, hungry, and horrifyingly persistent. The memory of the big guy thudding under my grill, the way he just disappeared beneath the chassis, bile rose in my throat again. I swallowed it down, hard. No time for weakness. No time for regrets. That was survival. That was the new math. Them or me. My eyes scanned the road ahead, the powerful beams of my headlights cutting a swath through the oppressive darkness. The desert night outside the windows was absolute black. No moon, just a spray of indifferent stars overhead. Every flicker of movement at the edge of my vision, every shadow cast by a roadside cactus or rock formation, made my heart leap into my throat. Was that something moving? Just the wind? Or one of them, drawn out of the scrub by the noise of my passage? The CB was a nightmare mosaic. Snippets of terror, pleas for help, warnings, then static. Gotta get off the highway, they're funneling towards the lights. Static hiss. Anyone copy near Holbrook? Is it clear? Over. Silence. Then, maybe 10 minutes later.
Oh God! No, stay away from Holbrook! It's overrun. They're breaking through this.
Screaming, then silence. Military frequency, heard something, channel unclear. Quarantine, fails, garbled noise. Quarantine failure. That hit hard. If the military couldn't contain this, what chance did anyone have? What chance did Sarah and Emily have, way out in Omaha? Were they safe? Had it reached Nebraska yet? The not knowing was a physical ache, twisting in my gut worse than hunger or fear. I kept trying the phone, pointlessly, flipping it open every few minutes. Still dead. No service. 3 words that felt like a death sentence. My biggest, most immediate problem, however, was glowing amber on the dashboard, the low fuel warning. I'd maybe gotten 50 miles out of the desert oasis before the light flicked on. According to the trip computer, I had perhaps another 60, 70 miles range, max. Less if I had to push hard or navigate rough terrain. Flagstaff was behind me and compromised. Holbrook was ahead and apparently overrun. Winslow, gallop further into New Mexico. Every town was a potential death trap now. But sitting still wasn't an option. Running out of fuel on the open highway, a sitting duck in an 80,000-pound metal box, that was unthinkable. I needed fuel. Now, I started scanning the smaller exits, the ones marked with maybe a single gas pump symbol and a name I'd never heard of. Places I'd normally blow past without a second thought. Desperate times. Jackrabbit Road, gas. Looked promising. Or as promising as anything could look in this nightmare. I took the exit, Betsy's air brakes hissing in the quiet. The ramp curved down into deeper darkness. No lights visible, none at all. That was a bad sign. I slowed Betsy to a crawl as I reached the bottom of the ramp. A 2-lane county road stretched left and right. To the right, maybe a quarter-mile down, was the gas station. Looked like a single dilapidated building with maybe 2 ancient pumps out front. No lights. No signs of life. But no immediate signs of unlife either. I killed the headlights, relying on the faint starlight and my running lights. Better not to advertise my arrival. Eased the truck forward, engine murmuring. My ears strained, listening over the low rumble. Wind sighed through the skeletal remains of roadside brush. Otherwise a silence. Too much silence. Pulled Betsy up near the pumps, angled so I had a clear view of the building's front door and windows, and a straight shot back to the highway ramp if needed. Keeled the engine. The sudden quiet was deafening. Okay, Hank. Recon first. Tire thumper in hand again, I cracked the cab door, listening intently. Nothing. Slipped out, staying low, using the bulk of the truck as cover. Moved towards the pumps. Dead just like a desert oasis. Power was out here too. Makes sense. Whatever was happening, the grid was probably one of the first casualties. People panic, systems fail, nobody's there to fix them. That meant siphoning. Shit, I hated siphoning. Always tasted gasoline for hours afterwards. But needs must. Were there any vehicles to siphon from? Scanning the small, dusty lot, yes. An old sedan, parked near the building. Door slightly ajar, and around the back, mostly hidden, the rear end of what looked like a pickup truck. Okay, plan B. Check the building first. Clear it. Make sure nothing nasty is waiting inside to jump me, while my back is turned trying to wrestle with a gas cap. Moved towards the building, staying close to the ground, using the shadows. The front door window was smashed inwards. Jagged shards littered the threshold. I peered inside. Pitch black. Couldn't see a thing. Hello, I whispered, feeling stupid. What did I expect? A faint shuffling sound from deep inside. Nope, not going in there. Screw that. Whatever fuel was in those parked vehicles would have to be enough. Backed away slowly, carefully. Circled around towards the sedan. Kept glancing back at the dark doorway, at the smashed window. Every nerve ending screamed that I was being watched. The Seden's door was open, like someone had bailed out in a hurry. Interior light was off, thankfully battery probably dead. Looked inside, empty. Keys weren't in the ignition. Gas gauge read just under a quarter tank. Better than nothing. Now for the hard part. I didn't carry a dedicated siphon hose, never needed one. Back to Betsy. Rummaged through my toolbox. Found a length of clear plastic tubing I sometimes used for coolant checks. Might work. Needed a gas can. Had a small 2-gallon one for emergencies, tucked away in a side compartment. Heart pounding, I went back to the sedan, popped the gas cap. The smell of stale fuel hit me. Fed the tube into the tank, fished around until I felt the end submerge. Took a deep breath, put the other end to my mouth, and sucked. The immediate, acrid taste of gasoline filled my mouth. Spat quickly, trying to clear the vile flavor. Fuel started flowing down the tube. Lowered the end into my red plastic can. A slow trickle. This was going to take forever. Every second felt like an eternity. Every distant coyote howl sounded like a groan. Every gust of wind rustling the dry grass sounded like shuffling footsteps. I kept scanning the darkness, swinging my gaze between the silent gas station building and the surrounding desert. Where were they? Why was it so quiet? Were they hiding, waiting? The 2-gallon can felt pitifully light when the flow stopped. Barely enough to move the needle on Betsy's gauge. I needed more. The pickup truck sneaked around the back of the building. There it was, an old Ford F-150, nose buried in a sand drift like it had slid off the road. Looked abandoned. Maybe wrecked. Perfect. Approached cautiously. Checked the cab. Empty. This one had keys dangling from the ignition. Tempting to just take the truck, but it looked stuck fast, and besides, Betsy was my fortress. Checked the fuel gauge through the dusty window.
Half a tank!
Jackpot. Repeated the siphoning process. Another mouthful of gas, another slow trickle into my can. Filled the 2-gallon can, emptied it into Betsy's tank. Went back for more. On my third trip back to the pickup, filling the can again, I heard it. Not a shuffle this time. A definite thump from inside the gas station building. Followed by a low groan. Freeze. Don't move. Don't breathe. Listened. Silence again. Just the wind. Maybe I imagined it. Wishful thinking. Another thump, louder this time. Like something heavy bumping against the inside of the wall. Screw the last can. Time to go. Yank the hose out, spilling gas on the sandy ground. Sloshed the cap back onto the pickup's tank. Grabbed my nearly full 2-gallon can and hustled back towards Betsy, trying not to run, trying not to make noise. Just as I reached the cab, stuffing the can behind the seat, I saw movement at the smashed window of the gas station. A pale shape. A face. Couldn't be sure in the dark. But then the front door rattled, as if something was pushing against it from the inside. Fired up Betsy's engine. The roar shattered the silence. Headlights blazed, illuminating the gas station front. The door burst open. Not one, but 2 of them stumbled out. Gaunt figures in torn clothes, moving with that same jerky, unnatural gait. Their heads snapped towards the light and sound, milky eyes fixing on my truck. They started shuffling forward, groaning that horrible, soul-chilling sound. Threw Betsy into reverse, backed up fast, swung her nose towards the on-ramp. Shifted into drive. Just as I started rolling, I saw more movement. Headlights approaching on the county road, coming from the direction I hadn't explored. A car moving slowly, hesitantly. It pulled up near the ramp entrance, engine sputtering. A beat-up minivan. Someone waved frantically from the passenger window. My first instinct, ignore them. Drive. Escape. Don't get involved. Don't stop. But the headlights briefly illuminated the inside of the van. A man driving, a woman beside him, kids in the back. A family. Their faces pale with terror. The 2 things from the gas station were shambling closer to the minivan now, drawn by its sputtering engine. Damn it. Damn it all to hell. I couldn't just leave them. Not like that. What if that was Sarah and Emily? Made a split, second decision. Veered Betsy slightly. Putting my rig between the minivan and the approaching biters. Walkers. What the hell do you even call them? Gave the horn a short blast to get the driver's attention. Gestured frantically towards the highway ramp.
Go! Get out!
The minivan's engine caught, revved. It lurched forward, tires spinning on the dirt shoulder, then gained traction and shot up the ramp onto I-40 East, disappearing into the night. Didn't even pause. Can't blame them. But now the 2 biters were focused on me, stumbling towards Betsy's cab. One was the station attendant, maybe. Old guy in greasy overalls. The other looked like hell, I don't know. Just another corpse walking. No hesitation this time. Floored the accelerator. Betsy surged forward. The impact was less dramatic than the first time, more of a glancing blow and a horrible scraping sound down the side as I steered onto the ramp. Didn't look in the mirrors, didn't want to see. Back on the highway, foot heavy on the pedal, put distance between me and that cursed exit. My hands were clenched tight on the wheel. 6 gallons. Maybe. Enough for another 100 miles, maybe a bit more. Bought myself some time, but not much. And I'd risked everything for strangers who didn't even wait. Was that stupid? Heroic? Or just human? In this new world, I wasn't sure if there was a difference anymore, or if being human was just another way to get yourself killed. Checked the dash clock. Past midnight. Wednesday now. Still within the first 24 hours. Felt like a lifetime ago I was hauling oranges under the California sun. The CB crackled again. A different voice this time, calmer, almost official sounding, but strained. Repeat. This is civilian broadcast relaying emergency frequency. All major population centers compromised. I repeat, all major cities compromised. Reports indicate pathogens spread via bite or fluid contact. Infected individuals display extreme aggression, loss of cognitive function, resilience to trauma. Avoid contact at all costs. Military mobilizing designated safe zones. Unreliable communications failing. Stay off major arteries if possible. Secondary roads advised. God help us all. The broadcast dissolved into static. Secondary roads. Avoid major arteries. Easier said than done in an 18-wheeler. And where the hell would I go? Every road seemed to lead deeper into the nightmare. Up ahead, maybe 50 miles distant, a faint, flickering orange glow stained the black horizon. Too big, too widespread to be a brush fire. A town, a city. Holbrook, Winslow, didn't matter. It was a beacon of destruction, a sign that the world I knew was literally going up in flames. I had a little fuel. I had my truck. And I had the image of Sarah and Emily, a desperate prayer in my heart. Keep going east. Find a way. Survive. That's all there was left. The darkness ahead seemed absolute, but I pushed Betsy onward, deeper into the burning night. Driving towards a burning city is a special kind of madness. Every instinct screams to turn around, to flee, but the needle on my fuel gauge was a relentless tyrant. 40 east was the artery, and whatever that burning stain on the night sky was, Holbrook, Winslow, maybe Gallup further on, the interstate likely ran straight through its heart, or damn close to it. The garbled broadcast had warned against major arteries, advised secondary roads. Good advice, maybe, if you're driving a Prius. Less practical when you're piloting 80,000 pounds of steel and rubber that needs pavement wider than a cow path and doesn't exactly handle hairpin turns gracefully. As I got closer, the orange glow resolved into a terrifying panorama. It was a city, or what was left of it. Flames licked hundreds of feet into the air from multiple points, buildings, vehicles, maybe even gas stations going up in spectacular, horrific explosions that momentarily lit the landscape like daylight, revealing glimpses of utter chaos before plunging back into smoke, choked darkness. The wind shifted, carrying the stench of combustion, wood, plastic, chemicals, and something else, something sickly sweet and foul, like a barbecue gone horribly wrong. The smell of burning flesh. The highway itself, as predicted, became impassable long before the city limits proper. A nightmarish tangle of wrecked and abandoned vehicles choked all eastbound lanes. Cars, trucks, RVs, even a couple of National Guard Humvees skewed across the road, doors flung open, windshields starred with bullet holes or smeared with blood. It looked like a desperate, failed evacuation, or maybe a failed checkpoint. Hard to tell in the flickering, hellish light. No way through, not even for Betsy. Trying to ram through that mess would be suicide, risk getting stuck, damaging the truck beyond repair. Secondary roads it was, had to be. I remembered seeing a sign for a scenic road bypass, M117, branching off I-40 somewhere before Gallup. If that's where I was. Supposed to cut south then east, through the El Malpais National Monument, lava fields, and emptiness. Might reconnect with I-40 further down, or maybe link up with other state highways heading east. It was a gamble. Secondary roads could be worse, narrower, poorly maintained, leading nowhere. but sitting here watching the city burn wasn't an option. Pulled out my Wern Ran McNally Road Atlas, thank God for old school paper maps. Spread it across the passenger seat. Used the dim glow of my dash lights. Found the junction. Looked like it was still 10 miles ahead before the main wreckage field really started. If I could get there, the approach was tense. The shoulders of the highway were littered with debris, abandoned cars at odd angles, and shapes moving in the distance, illuminated by the inferno ahead. Single figures, small groups, shuffling aimlessly amidst the carnage or silhouetted against the flames. Biters, drawn to the light, the noise, the smell. Hundreds of them, maybe thousands, converging on the dying city. Kept Betsy rolling slow and steady, headlights off again, using just running lights. Straining my eyes in the gloom, watching the ditches, the median, saw a few stragglers closer to the road, heads snapping up as my engine rumbled past. One lurched out from behind a stalled pickup. I swerved, the trailer tires kicking up gravel on the shoulder, close enough to see its ragged clothes, its lolling head, its pale, empty eyes reflecting the distant firelight. Didn't hit it. Didn't want to risk stopping or slowing down. Finally, the exit sign for MM117. Relief washed over me, cold and sharp. Took the ramp, leaving the horror show of I-40 and the burning city behind me, plunging into the relative darkness of the state highway. Relative being the key word. This road was narrower, rougher asphalt, winding through dark volcanic rock formations and stunted juniper trees. Felt even more isolated out here, if that was possible. The atlas showed basically nothing for the next 60 miles. No towns, no gas stations, just parkland and wilderness. And my fuel gauge was still dangerously low. The siphoned gas hadn't bought me much time, especially if this detour added significant mileage. The crushing weight of fatigue was setting in. My eyes felt gritty, my shoulders ached. How long had I been driving? Since yesterday afternoon. Maybe 16, 18 hours straight, fueled by caffeine and adrenaline. But that was running out. My reactions were slowing. I needed rest. Soon. But where? Pulling over on this narrow shoulder felt incredibly exposed. Kept pushing, watching the fuel gauge drop with agonizing slowness. Every mile felt like 10. Dawn was breaking now, a grey. Reluctant light filtering through the smoke, hazed sky. The landscape revealed itself stark, alien, fields of black, jagged lava rocks stretching for miles. It felt like driving on the surface of the moon, a dead moon. Then, a glimmer of hope, or maybe just another devil's bargain. On the Atlas, tucked away miles off Lone 17, down a smaller access road, a symbol-filled depot. Not a public truck stop, likely a commercial distribution point. Might have large storage tanks. Might have diesel. Might also be locked down tight, or worse. Already looted or infested. Another gamble. But the needle was practically on empty now. I didn't have a choice. Turned onto the access road, barely more than a graded dirt track. Betsy bounced and complained, kicking up dust. Worried about the tires, about the suspension. After a few rough miles, I saw it. A chain link fence topped with barbed wire, surrounding a collection of large, white cylindrical tanks and a small office building. A sign read Red Mesa Fuel Distribution. Looked deserted. The main gate was closed, secured with a heavy padlock and chain. No lights in the office window. No sounds except the wind whistling around the tanks. Parked Betsy 100 yards back, hidden slightly by a rise in the terrain. Killed the engine. Listened. Nothing. Okay, Hank. In and out. Get the fuel, get gone. Grabbed the tire thumper again, and this time, a heavy, duty bolt cutter I kept in the toolbox. Never thought I'd use it for braking and entering, but the world had changed. Rules were out the window. Approached the fence cautiously. Kept scanning the perimeter, the tanks, the office building. Still nothing. Reached the gate. The padlock was thick steel. Took a deep breath, positioned the bolt cutters, clamped down with all my weight. A loud snap echoed in the morning stillness. Felt like a gunshot. Froze again listening, silence. Pulled the severed lock and chain away. Swung the gate open just wide enough for Betsy to squeeze through later. Inside the compound, several large vertical tanks, probably held gasoline and diesel. A series of loading pumps. like at a commercial card lock, and parked near the back 2 tanker trucks. Potential gold mine. Checked the office first. Door was unlocked. Inside, chaos. Paper strewn everywhere. Desk overturned. Looks like someone left in a panic. No bodies, living or dead. Clear. Back outside, went straight for the loading pumps. Needed power to run them. Checked the main breaker box on the side of the office. Flicked switches. Nothing, power was out here too. Damn it. Okay, plan C. The tanker trucks. Maybe they still had fuel in their own tanks, or better yet, in the main cargo tanks. One was a gasoline tanker. The other, blessedly, was diesel. Jackpot. Climbed up the side ladder onto the catwalk running along the top of the diesel tanker. Found the access hatches. Heavy steel lids. Managed to wrestle one open. Looked down into the dark interior. Couldn't see the fuel level, but the smell was strong and fresh. There was fuel in here. A lot of it. Now, how to get it out? Gravity feed. Needed a hose. Long enough to reach Betsy's tanks. Scanned the depot yard. Found a coil of thick black hose near the loading pumps, probably used for filling. Perfect. Heavy, awkward, but perfect. Dragged the hose over to the tanker, fed one end deep into the hatch. Dragged the other end back towards the gate, planning to bring Betsy inside. This was going to take time. Exposed time. Just as I was about halfway to the gate, hose in hand, I heard it. Faint at first, carried on the wind. A low, collective moaning sound, not 1 or 2 biters. Dozens, maybe more. Where was it coming from? Spun around, scanning the desolate landscape outside the fence. Over the rise where I'd parked Betsy, shapes were appearing. 1, then 3, then 10, then 20. Stumbling, shambling figures silhouetted against the grey dawn sky. Coming right towards the fuel depot, drawn by the sound of the bolt cutters. Or just wandering. Didn't matter. They were coming. Panic seized me. Forget bringing Betsy inside. Get some fuel, anything, and get out? Abandoned the long hose. Ran back to my truck, grabbed my pathetic 2-gallon emergency can and the siphoning tube. Ran back to the tanker, heart hammering like a drum. Scrambled back onto the tanker catwalk. Jammed the siphon tube into the hatch. Sucked frantically, gagged on the diesel fumes this time. Got the flow going into the small can. The moaning outside the fence was louder now. I could hear individual groans, shuffling footsteps on the dirt. Peeking over the side, maybe 30 or 40 of them now, converging on the gate, pressing against the chain, link. Some were clawing at it, rattling the fence. Filled the 2-gallon can.
Too slow. Needed more.
Remembered the tanker truck's own fuel tanks, the ones that powered its engine. Swung down. Found the cap on its saddle tank. Unscrewed it. Jammed the siphon tube in. Started the flow again, this time into Betsy's main tanks directly through the open gate. Much faster flow. But they were at the gate now. The fence groaned under their combined weight. A couple of them were trying to climb it, clumsy but persistent. One reached the top, snagged on the barbed wire, hung there twitching and groaning. How much fuel was enough? 10 gallons. 20. The gauge was climbing, but agonizingly slowly. Glanced back at the horde. More were arriving, drawn by the commotion. Easily 50 or 60 now. A sea of blank eyes, grasping hands. A true horde. My first. The fence wouldn't hold them forever. Had to go. Now. Yanked the hose out, diesel splashing onto the ground. Slammed the gas cap shut. Ran for Betsy's cab, vaulted inside, hit the door lock. Engine roared to life. Threw it into gear. Aimed for the gate. The biters clustered there turned towards the sound, a wall of rotting flesh. No room to maneuver. Straight through, braced for impact. Betsy hit the gate, and the cluster of bodies behind it with terrifying force. Metal screamed, bodies thudded and scraped along the side of the cab and trailer. Some were thrown clear, others went under the wheels. The sickening crunch of bone, the wet slap of impact, sounds I'd never forget. Burst through the gate, back onto the dirt road, leaving a trail of carnage and spilled diesel behind. Floored it, didn't look back. The horde was behind me, hopefully distracted by the depot, but how many more were out there? Got back onto MM117, tires squealing. Headed east again, adrenaline making me hyper-aware. The fuel gauge read just over half a tank. Good, very good. Bought myself maybe 300, 400 miles. But the cost, Betsy was hurt. The passenger side mirror was gone, sheared off at the gate. Deep gouges scarred the paintwork on the cab and trailer, and there was a vibration, a slight shimmy from the rear I hadn't felt before. A damaged tire, a bent axle. Something felt wrong, and the fatigue, it hit me like a physical blow now that the immediate danger had passed. My eyelids felt like lead weights. My brain felt foggy. I needed to pull over, check the damage, rest. Even an hour. Found a spot a few miles down the road, a shallow depression off the highway partially hidden by lava rocks. Pulled Betsy in as far as I dared, killed the engine. Silence, except for the wind and the ticking of the cooling engine. Grabbed the tire thumper, checked the tires. Rear passenger side, inside dual flat. Completely flat. Shredded. Probably from running over debris at the gate. Damn it. Changing an inside dual on an 18th, Wheeler is a bitch at the best of times, let alone, exhausted, in the middle of Z-Land. Did I even have a usable spare? Had to check. Before that, though, sleep. Just an hour. Set the alarm on my watch. Locked the doors. Reclined the seat slightly. Closed my eyes. Images flooded my brain. The waitress. The burning city. The horde at the fence. Sarah's face. Emily's smile. The thud of bodies under my wheels. Sleep wouldn't come easy. Every creak of the truck settling, every gust of wind, sounded like footsteps outside. Paranoia was a cold knot in my stomach. I was alone, damaged, exhausted, in a world overrun by monsters. The first 24 hours were drawing to a close. I had fuel, but I was wounded. And the road ahead stretched into an uncertain dawn, promising only more miles, more monsters, more impossible choices. The fight for survival had only just begun. Sleep, when it finally came, wasn't rest. It was a shallow, feverish state, punctuated by phantom noises and jarring flashes of horror behind my eyelids. The waitress's milky eyes, the trucker folding under Betsy's grill, the sea of grasping hands at the fuel depot fence, the burning city painting the sky. They played on a loop, interspersed with agonizingly clear images of Sarah laughing in our kitchen, Emily rolling her eyes at one of my bad jokes. I jolted awake at least 3 times in what felt like minutes, tire thumper already in my hand, heart hammering against my ribs, convinced they were right outside, clawing at the door. Each time, there was nothing but the desolate silence of the lava fields and the mournful sigh of the wind. After maybe 45 minutes of this torture, I gave up. Sleep wasn't happening. Not real sleep, anyway. The fatigue was a lead weight behind my eyes, a dull ache in my bones, but the adrenaline, the fear, wouldn't let me fully succumb. Fine. Better to be tired and alert than rested and dead. Time to face the music. Time to change that tire. Getting out of the cab into the cool, grey morning light felt like stepping onto an alien planet. The silence was vast, unnerving. The jagged black lava rock stretched in every direction, sharp and hostile. Not a bird, not an insect, nothing seemed alive out here except me and the wind, and maybe things that only looked dead. First, check the spare. Please be good. Please be good. Climbed onto the catwalk behind the cab, where the spare was mounted. Looked okay, felt solid, held air. Thank Christ for small miracles. Now for the hard part. Changing an inside rear dual on a loaded trailer is nobody's idea of fun. It's heavy, dirty, dangerous work, even in a fully equipped shop with air tools. Out here alone. With a basic hydraulic bottle jack and a 4-foot breaker bar for the lug nuts, it was going to be hell. Chocked the front axle wheels securely with chunks of broken lava rock, couldn't risk Betsy rolling. Located the jack points on the rear axle, positioned the bottle jack. Started pumping. Slow, steady effort. The trailer groaned, protesting as the immense weight lifted fractionally off the suspension. Then the lug nuts, 8 of them, thick steel studs holding both wheels on, probably torqued to 500 foot-pounds or more. Slipped the socket over the first nut, fitted the breaker bar, planted my feet, threw all my weight into it. Nothing. Solid. Felt like it was welded on. Tried again, putting my back into it, grunting with the effort. The bar flexed, my knuckles scraped against the outer wheel rim, drawing blood. Still nothing. Damn it, panic started to bubble. If I couldn't get the wheels off, I was stranded. Took a deep breath. Okay. Hank. Think. Leverage. Found a length of steel pipe in my toolbox, maybe 3 feet long, that just fit over the handle of the breaker bar. Cheetah bar. Dangerous, too much force, can snap a stud, but I was out of options. Slid the pipe over the breaker bar, extending my leverage significantly. Positioned it carefully on the lug nut. Took a wide stance. Pulled steadily, smoothly, muscles straining, teeth clenched. For a heart-stopping moment, nothing happened.
Then a loud crack!
Not the stud breaking, thank God, but the nut finally breaking free from the grip of rust and torque. 1 down, 7 to go. Each one was a battle, a sweaty, cursing, straining affair that left my arms trembling and my back screaming. Every loud crack echoed unnervingly across the desolate landscape. I kept pausing, listening, scanning the horizon. Was that noise drawing attention? How far could sound travel out here? My skin crawled with the feeling of being watched. During the fight with the third lug nut, I heard it. A definite shuffle. Not wind this time. Footsteps dragging through the loose volcanic gravel, maybe 50 yards away, coming from behind a jagged outcrop of rock. Froze instantly. Dropped the breaker bar silently onto the ground. Grabbed the tire thumper. Crouched low behind the massive trailer wheels, peering around the edge. A single biter. Male, dressed in hiker gear. One leg bent at a sickeningly wrong angle, dragging uselessly behind him. He hadn't seen me yet. Seemed drawn by the intermittent metallic clangs of my work. Head lolling, groaning softly, he shuffled slowly towards the truck. My heart pounded. Okay, just one. Deal with it fast, quiet if possible. Let him get closer. Wait. He shuffled past the front of the truck, oblivious. Kept coming towards the rear wheels where I was hiding. 10 yards. 5 yards. He was almost parallel with me, separated only by the width of the trailer tires. Now, exploded from cover. Swung the tire thumper hard, two-handed, like Babe Ruth aiming for the fences. Connected solidly with the side of its head. A sickening crunch of bone. The thing staggered, its groan cutting off mid-rasp. It didn't fall. Turned towards me, milky eyes fixing on mine, jaw hanging slack, blood trickling from its ear. Second swing. Aimed for the temple again. Connected even harder.
Shrek!
The skull visibly caved in. It dropped like a puppet with its strings cut, hitting the dirt with a heavy thud. Didn't move again. Stood there panting, adrenaline surging again, tire thumper held ready. Listened, silence. No others alerted. Just me, the wind, and the corpse sprawled a few feet away. Looked down at it. Just a hiker. Someone enjoying the park, maybe before the world ended. Now just meat. Rotten meat. Had to stop thinking of them as people. Had to. Forced myself back to work, hands shaking slightly now. The remaining lug nuts came off, slowly, painfully. Wrestled the heavy outer wheel off 100 pounds easy. Then the inner wheel with the shredded tire. Even heavier. The smell of burnt rubber filled the air. Checked the spare quickly, looked okay. Now the reverse. Lifting the spare into place on the inner studs. Heavy, awkward angle. Strained my back. Got it seated. Then lift the outer wheel back on. Heavier still. My muscles screamed in protest. Finally, started the lug nuts back on by hand. Tightened them in the star pattern with the breaker bar, putting everything I had into it. Lowered the jack. Tightened them again. Good enough. Not shot tight maybe, but good enough to roll. The whole process took nearly 2 hours. 2 agonizing exposed hours. I was drenched in sweat, covered in grease and grime, blood crusting on my knuckles, muscles twitching with exhaustion. But Betsy was mobile again. Climbed back into the cab, collapsed into the seat, breathing heavily. Drank thirstily from my water bottle. Need to conserve that. Checked my supplies, down to maybe a dozen bottles of water, half a box of stale crackers, some jerky, a few cans of beans, dwindling supply of instant coffee, and my fuel just over half a tank, enough to get somewhere, but not enough to get home. Not even close. Scavenging wasn't optional anymore, it was essential. Food, water, fuel, everything. Tried the CB again. Static, mostly. Then, a clearer voice, female sounding exhausted but organized. Repeat. convoy forming, heading east on 40, aiming for Amarillo staging area. Military confirmation patchy, but it's the best intel we have. Any mobile survivors on I-40 east of Albuquerque, Rendezvous, Tucumcari checkpoint, use caution. Overrun areas, be advised all. The signal faded in and out, dissolving into static again before she could repeat the checkpoint details. Amarillo, Texas Panhandle. That was doable. Still a long way, but a target. A potential pocket of safety, military presence. Sounded better than wandering aimlessly. Tucumcari checkpoint first, though. Sounded like a gathering point, worth checking out. Or another trap. Tried the phone. Still dead. No surprise there. Pulled out the atlas again. Traced the route. Stay on a 117 until it looked like US 60. Take that east. Or try to cut back north to I-40 near Laguna Pueblo. I-40 was faster, more direct, but the broadcast mentioned convoys might mean more people, more attention, more danger. The woman's voice mentioned caution, overrun areas. Maybe sticking to secondary routes was still smarter. US 60 looked like it passed through smaller towns. Magdalena, Socorro risky. Decided to stick with the plan, follow 117, hope it linked up with something heading east that wasn't I-40 initially. Maybe cut across towards Tucumcari later, closer to Texas. Avoid population centers as much as possible. Fired up Betsy. Engine turned over, settled into its familiar rumble. Checked the time on the dash. Almost 4 p.m., Wednesday afternoon. Realization hit me. It had been roughly 24 hours. 24 hours since I was rolling through the Arizona desert listening to country music, worrying about delivery schedules. 24 hours since the world was normal. Now, the world was burning. The dead walked, and I was alone in the wasteland, running on fumes and fear, trying to cross a continent that had turned into a graveyard. Sarah, Emily, the thought of them was a sharp pain, a desperate hope. Were they alive? Were they safe? Had they turned? Shoved that thought down violently. Couldn't go there. Assumed they're alive. Assume they need me. Get home. That's the mission. Put Betsy in gear. Eased her carefully back onto the cracked pavement of NM 117. Headed east again into the declining afternoon sun. The broken passenger mirror left a huge blind spot, unsettling. The truck felt wary, wounded. Like me. As I drove, scanning the desolate landscape, I saw something off to the south. Maybe half a mile off the road, partially obscured by rock formations. Tracks. Multiple sets of heavy vehicle tracks, turning off the main road onto an unmarked trail, heading deeper into the lava beds. Not the panicked swerving of fleeing cars. These looked deliberate, organized, too parallel, too neat for refugees. Someone knew where they were going. Someone with heavy vehicles, military, or something else. Other survivors, fortifying a position. Bandits setting up an ambush route. Didn't like it. Didn't like unknowns. Pressed down on the accelerator, putting distance between me and those tracks. Watching my mirrors, the one I had left anyway. The sun was beginning to dip towards the horizon again, painting the undersides of the smoke, hazed clouds in bruised purples and blood oranges. End of the first day. 24 hours down. How many more to go? The road stretched ahead. Empty and uncertain. The silence on the CB returned. Just the rumble of Betsy's engine, the wind, and the frantic beating of my own heart. The first chapter was over. The real long haul. The desperate journey across a dead America had just begun.